Good afternoon. So my name is William Perez. I'm with QueryLM. I'm a senior LM consultant. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about change and release management, how we empower your managing your releases, your changes via Solution Manager, and all the different tools and possibilities that you can do to make that the best way, and you have visibility and traceability of everything that you do in your environment. Okay. So let's go to the first slide. The first slide here, it's the agenda. We're gonna cover a little bit about who QueryLM is, about the company. Then we're gonna go over some slides of the overview of the change control management and release management, how those two pieces work together, how the whole process from the requirements all the way to release management, what the release management tool is about. So you guys have an idea through the slides. Then we're gonna, that's a continuation with release management and the change control management. They're related to each other. So we're gonna do an overview of the release management itself. So at the end of the presentation, I wanna go to the system and show you the release management piece, isolated, standalone, and how that actually connects to the charm process, because release management, it's on top of change management, change control management, and how those two pieces can work together to manage your releases. Okay, so and then we open for Q&A at the end of the presentation, and then so we can get any questions, any things that you may have. So if you have any questions during the presentation, you can write down on the chat session like Ivan said, then we can address all these questions at the end of the presentation. So on the next, now I'm gonna talk a little bit about the, a second here. Okay, so we're gonna get a poll question in your screen right now. That's about the change, the Solution Manager 7.2. It's a question that we want to ask you regarding to this subject. So you're gonna get a pop-up screen on your screen right now. So if you can take a few seconds to answer that, that would be great. Okay. Looks like we got answers from everybody. Thanks so much for answering the polling. So then let's start with the content of today's presentation. So about QueryLM. QueryLM is you're the only dedicated team of experts focused on digital transformation lifecycle. We established digital core foundation leveraging SAP HANA, Solution Manager, Application Lifecycle Manager, and DevOps. So we're one of the few consulting companies in North America that's fully dedicated to application lifecycle management, and so we're all experts on that. And then we've been doing that for a while. Okay, so let's go here. So as far as the QueryLM portfolio, all the different services that we offer, as you think about the lifecycle management, all the different phases in the process that can happen in your corporation to manage all the different pieces of your IT environment, we support and we deliver all this different type of service. As you can look on the screen here, from the process, project, and portfolio management, all the different elements, the business process management, test management, ITSM, change control management, and release. That's the one that we're going to cover today. Then DevOps and run SAP like a factory, OCC, and design and development ops. So there's for all these different services that QueryLM offers, we have different ways to engage with the customers. So if you want to know more about it, feel free to contact us, so we can always find the best way for us to help you to get one of these services implemented. Okay. So when we talk about application lifecycle management, it's not only Solution Manager. There's a lot of tools that customers today use to help them with the managing of the lifecycle of their products and software. So as you can look at the screen, you have Solution Manager as the core element and a lot of different pieces that compose the application lifecycle management. And on the second layer here, you have all these different products from Microsoft, CA, Redwood, OpenText, and you can have actually many more than that. So we do provide service from all the ALM tools out there, SAP and non-SAP tools. So here just gives an idea, so you may relate yourself to some of these products that are listed here for testing, for archiving, for monitoring, and they all can be integrated with Solution Manager. So we also provide beyond Solution Manager application lifecycle management. Okay. So one important thing to know, as like I mentioned before, QueryLM is one of the few dedicated consulting companies in application lifecycle management, and we've been in the market for a while. So due to our high quality service, we're recognized as the 20 most promising ALM solution providers, and also in the third year in a row we're one of the finalists SAP Pinnacle Awards, and then that means we're one of the best deployment consulting companies deploying service with high quality services out there. And also SAP certified in application management service, SAP certified in run SAP implementation. Okay, so that kind of gives you some trust, so you can know that if you get service from us, you're getting good experts doing implementation for you. Okay, so that's the polling question that we got. The slide was in the wrong sequence. So when we talk about the change control management, there's a Solution Manager, right? When we have, I think you guys, a lot of you are know that charm, there's a change request manager, which is one of the elements. If you look at my triangle here, there's a lot of different puzzle pieces that compose the change control management area of Solution Manager. And then you have change request manager, which is our popular charm. You have quality gauge management. You have your base foundation central transfer management. You have your retrofit, and you have some analytics here to can see like dashboards and reports. But on top of that, SAP has released now a new element called release management, because they noticed that a lot of customers out there, they were managing, they had a need to manage their releases and different projects. But the way that the container that was managing their releases and projects was not exactly designed or made to support releases. So they say, okay, wow, we need to come up with something to help our customers to manage their releases better, something more release-oriented. That's why the release management module or area came on top of a change control management to help us to have a better release management. We're going to go over the details here. So as every customer has a similar or has something like this today, every customer has a change happening. You may have your major releases. With your major releases, you have upgrades, enhancement packages, and things that are taking like a lot of time. It's a major development in your environment. So those type of enhancements and things, based on SAP best practices, can happen twice a year. So every 6 months, you would deploy a major release, you have something major happening in your SAP environment or no-SAP environment, right? And then you have your minor innovations, minor changes that can happen weekly, bi-weekly, every month, every quarter. Those are minor releases. And you have your regular change that can happen every day, like on demand, because you have something major, like something really important to fix in production, or something that is regular, like your corporation, the way you do change today. You deploy things like every day, right? So every customer is different. So all these different flavors and scenarios you're seeing here, how do you manage that, right? Do you have a tool today? Do you have charm already, but you're not happy with it? You want to increment, you want to actually enhance that with release management, right? Or you don't have charm at all, you want to know what charm with release management is about. So there's a couple, there's somehow, some way you have to do management of your change. So Solution Manager offers you change request management and release management to help you with that. Okay. So as a very like I said, the clear some of the pain points that customers have today when we talk about release management, it's like, Are you up to date on a release schedule? Do you have a release schedule? Yes, you do, but how do you manage that? Are you up to date on that? How do you manage that? So how are you satisfied with the process, how you manage your releases? The planning, the delivery targets. So how are you testing your different releases? You have like 5 different releases. Are you having a clear visibility how things are being tested? How do you control that? Do you have a central place where you control all the different releases to be tested at one time, at a certain time and moment, without having to bring a lot of different people and different spreadsheets and paper to the process? So that's where release management should give you some relief and help you to reduce all this overhead and process, right? So let's imagine like they have this scenario, you have project 1, project 2, project 9, so many projects in parallel. So like I said, testing is a very critical piece of your project today. So how do you make sure everybody's testing at the same time? So you have a proper testing, things will be taken into production with the proper testing and documentation. So the conflicts and dependencies, how do you make sure the project 1 and project 2, they're actually talking to each other? You can have visibility and they can see each other. And when you test it, you test things that associating different projects, right? You also, when you deploy them in a proper sequencing, so you don't have issues with overwriting or missing transports in the sequence. So you have a tool that helps you to manage that. And then it's like go live is always painful. Could be not necessarily always painful, but is always a concern and put a lot of pressure on us to make sure we always go smoothly, we don't forget anything. So release management should be there to help you to make sure you have a proper go live, you don't forget anything, so you have good visibility what's coming to that release cycle. And then overall, when you have a good tool in place, right, so you make sure your IT services are up and running, so that improves your known downtime because you now have a proper way to manage in not introducing risk into your environment. Okay, so let's go to next here. So basically, the release management, the goal of the release management is to have a successful deployment of related to, so the change management and release management together. Our goal is always to make all your changes and take it to production successfully, so without having any risk, introducing risk into your environments. So the release management, this new tool, this new UI, this new element that SAP introduced, it helps you to all the dates that you have, like for you have a Microsoft project or whichever tool you use today to plan your releases, right? So now you can leverage the whole architecture, the whole methodology and processing tools and framework from change request management, and use that now with the new UI, the release planning tool. So we can define dates, you can schedule those releases through Solution Manager, right? So you don't need to now have maintain spreadsheets or project planning tools. Now you can do everything in Solution Manager. So the release content, so the cycle, the release management content, the release management cycle is a container that's going to hold releases, and that's slightly different. We're going to go over the different cycles in Solution Manager 7.2. The release management one is specifically created to hold different releases because it fits when you move the different phases of your release. So it's going to manage the different phases and the different content accordingly. So when we go to the system, you have a better picture of the different cycles and how things are managed together with change request management and release management. So one important thing that it's in 7.2, and I think it's very nice what SAP has done. They introduced the requirements piece to the whole process, right? Before, let's imagine you have like 5 different projects going on. You have different requirements, right? Every project is different. You have different countries like China, Brazil, Japan, Australia. They all have different requirements from different people from different purposes. How would you collect those requirements and move all the way to deployment, but clearly without having to use multiple different source tools? So before, you could actually collect requirements in Solution Manager itself using an incident, then turning to that into a problem, then that would become your change request, and then you could associate it to release. So now in 7.2, you actually can use and leverage the business requirement piece of it to start collecting requirements for all the different releases and cycles from the business, from the lowest level, right? So what that gives to us, that gives us like you have a full life cycle of the process. So you can trace from the very early stage of the deployment, which is your business requirements, all the way to the deployment. So you get your business requirement from that project. That business requirement will turn into an IT requirement. You could use your IT PPM from Solution Manager to help you to manage your project. If you do, there's a tight integration with that. So your IT requirement now can be associated to a release, and that release eventually will be deployed into production. But now we have a full traceability and visibility of your requirements, all from requirements to deploy. This is really cool, right? So you can have a full process. You don't need to use multiple tools now anymore to manage that process. So this is a different way so you can see how all the different elements in Solution Manager works together. You have your PPM that can be tied to your IT requirements. Then you have your hierarchy, your solution documentation that's now very tight, and also a good, very tight integration with the whole process in Solution Manager. You can have a good way to manage your documentation along with the life cycle of your change for that project. So then you have solution documentation, talk to your business requirement. Your business requirement now translates into an IT requirement, and then that can be associated to change execution, which is going to be eventually part of one of your releases, and that release is going to be managed properly through the release planning tool and also the release cycle. So this is just another way, so you think like how you can see your major release going on top here, and then within that major release you have several minor releases, right? You have minor release 1.1, then that can go live, and then 1.2, but everything is synchronized, and dependencies, any sequence issues, anything that, all the different tools and features that Charm is really strong with making sure the dependency is properly taken care of, sequencing, then identifying locks and conflicts. So all these different features that we have today in Charm, they will also be part of your release management. So the release management is just going to take advantage of all whatever SAP has already developed, right? So it's just, and this slide, what's important to see is like we have all these different projects, and when we get to the phase, the testing phase here, so now we say, okay guys, it's time we scope the project, everybody has developed, but now it's time for testing. I don't want anybody introducing any new change to this environment anymore, because we want to make sure all these different projects, we're all testing, everything is working before we actually can go live with this project, or we want to synchronize the go live. So the release planning tool will help you to organize, to manage these different go lives, these different projects, control the testing phase. This is the beauty of the cycle, the release management cycle with Charm, everything working together. So, and then when we're ready, right, you have all your chains created in, you have your users entering new change, could be a normal change, could be an urgent change, could be any type of change, and they're linking those changes to a cycle. So when you guys are ready to go live, then you can associate to a cycle, right? Then we move the phases. I'm going to show you that in the system. So say, hey, I'm ready to go live. Charm is going to help you to bundle all those different chains into like a container, like a bundled container, and then we move everything together. So that reduces any risks of missing anything, and you have clear visibility to what things haven't been tested, or anything that hasn't been reached a certain status that we want it to be before we actually go live. So Charm is going to be always telling you, oh, you have like 50 transports or 50 objects that hasn't been yet in this status. Please talk to your developers. Make sure you guys do this before, or you test this without it with it. So there's a lot of control and warnings and management of Charm to help you to have this bundling of all your chains and make sure you have a proper go live so we don't miss anything. Okay, so this is just repeats a little bit what I just said. So you have your landscape, right? You can have your BW, your PI, your PO. You define what systems are part of the release track, right? You have different systems that can compose that part of the release. The release can be a BW release, can be a PI release, can be any type of system. So you define that. Then you do release planning. Then you manage your release cycles, right? So you have all the different releases for all the different systems. Then you manage that through the release planning tool. Okay. As I told you previously, now in Solution Manager 7.2, you have different types of cycles. You have a one-use change request manager, charm, and eventually you would be able, from charm, you could select two type of cycles, right? You could say, hey, this is an urgent change. I don't want to have it's more for a day-to-day. I don't want to actually have control of gates and all those things. This is a on-demand type of a change. Then we use the continual deployment type of cycle. So there's no need to move phases. So we don't control testing phase, build phase, deploy phase. Then you have your phase-driven deployment for project relevant wave-based, right? So then you have different projects that you want to control from a phase-driven deployment that you don't necessarily want to take advantage of the release planning or the release planning tool because you don't have that many releases. So I think you could possibly control that from your phase-driven deployment. So that's fine. Then you use the phase-driven deployment to manage those projects. But now if you want to take advantage of the release planning tool because you have multiple releases and the way that the site was designed with the containers and the UI and interface, then you can use the release management, which is kind of similar to the phase-driven, but it was designed and tailored more for the release planning, for the release management part of Solution Manager, and for your change in your SAP environment. So we already kind of talked. I talked to you about before the business that you can collect your requirements from the business all the way to deployment, right? So what I want to show you on the next slides is just kind of a high-level workflow of what it looks like in 7.2 if you were going to use from the requirements always to the deployment. Where exactly does the assignment to the cycle happens? Where exactly do I get this change document that was collected and linked to a release, right? So let's try to go through this story here, right? So you have your business process expert defining a new business requirement. That person, that group sends to your business manager, hey, I have a new requirement. This is for a project in Japan, and I need this requirement because it's part of and we need to do it, right? This is something new for the project. Then your business manager will evaluate that. We'll say, okay, cool, looks good. And then I'm going to say, before I actually commit with my development team, I need to make sure my IT team understand this requirement and make sure that we can do it. This is actually feasible, right? Then so your business manager will say, okay, approved, then hand over to IT. So at this time, then a new document will be follow up. It's going to be a follow-up document from your business requirement document. It will create an IT requirement document. So that way you have commitment with your IT. So you don't just send development direct, say, this is not possible. There is no evaluation. I don't think with this is really possible, or you guys are missing something here. So that way we make sure IT and business are always on the same page. So then I send this guy to my IT, say hand over to IT. My IT is gonna take a look at this, do some validation, and then say, okay, cool. What happens here? When your IT gets this requirement from your business, it will know if it's possible or not. If it's possible, they say, okay, I think that this is going to require like this number of chains, this number of transports, and then we can send this to development. At this time here, as you can see, on the IT scope finalized, the IT department, the IT architect will be able to link this document or define the scope and say, okay, this will be part of your release 1, 2, 3 China, okay? So at that time, your IT people will be able to link that to a certain release because they know what's required, they know what type of changes, and you know which release is going to belong to. So and then from here, your business manager, your IT people will hand over to implementation, and your development team will start working on that. Okay, your development people will now go into Charm, into a change document. Will create a new change document, and that change document will go through the Charm process, right? So you execute the change, then eventually we have the tester testing the change. That's when we move the release to the test phase, and everybody's testing everything synchronously. And then when we're ready to go live, we're going to move we're going to bundle all the releases that are ready to go live through the phases, which I'm going to show in the system later, so you know exactly how that looks. And then everything goes into production, everything gets deployed, and then that's how it works, right? Requirements that talks to IT, IT defines the scope, assigns to release, then the change gets developed, the change gets tested, we control that through the cycle, and then eventually from the cycle we move to deploy, and then that means we're ready to deploy. Then your base team or your IT department that's responsible to deploying those changes will run very clear, very easily, without having to go all over the place using spreadsheets. They will run an execution task list and make sure all those transfers that belong to that release, they're ready to go live, they will be deployed safely into a production environment. Okay, so that gives an idea how the whole process looks like. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go jump into the system and show you the two things that I want to show you today. I want to show you the change request management. I'm going to go with a normal change, so I'll give an idea what the normal change looks like and how the document look and feel in Charm 7.2, and then show you also how that link to the release planning tool, right? The release planning tool, the release cycle, and also I'm going to show you the release planning tool itself. How do you create a new major or minor release in the release planning tool? What are the options? What exactly this tool does for us, right? And how those two things actually tie together: the Charm process and your release management, your release cycle, and release planning tool. Okay, so let me go to the system very quickly here. Let me see if I have anything already open here. Let's just close this so I don't want to overlap anything. Okay, so that I can start over from. Okay, so let me open my SAP Solution Manager 7.2 very quickly here. So okay, so I'm doing Solution Manager 7.2 on HANA. So now I'm going to go to Solution Manager Work Centers. That's going to launch my Fiori Launchpad. Now that in 7.2 SAP has introduced Fiori all over the place, which is great. Makes everything look pretty and more user-friendly. So now we have, this is a Fiori Launchpad. As you can see everything here, right? A Solution Manager, data consistency, business process improvement, process monitoring. And if you click here, there's all the different areas of Solution Manager that you can, like for the ALM piece, right, that you can use. This is because my security right now, I have everything. But as you really use Solution Manager for your production, just very few people in your corporation will see everything. You're going to have to manage your securities to refine that. So you only see, for example, change management in this situation where we're talking today. So if I click here on the change management area, I have this assignment area with all different tiles. And then the one we're going to talk, the one that I want to show you today is the change and release management tile. This is where you administrator for all the different things. So it's like when you create a new cycle, when you have different locks, when you want to schedule imports into production, any administration task that's done for the release management or for the Charm is done via the admin area. And there's some other things here that you could use: quality management, change control analytics to see dashboards and reporting, and some other items. But let's talk about this guy today. And if you guys want to see any these things that I'm showing here in today in more details, go deep dive, and actually you have a pain point today in your company, you use Charm or you don't use Charm, you say, hey William, I would like to see, but that I want to go a little bit further. I want to go deep dive into certain pieces that you showed me the other day. We can always schedule a call, a company-specific demo to your company, so that way I can show you specifically some areas of your concern, okay? So I'm in the CRM UI right now. So you have requirements management and you have change request management. That's the one that I'm gonna show you today. On this area here, you have those 4 blocks, right? You can search everything that you create in Solution Manager. You can search for everything that you want to create in the change request manager. You can create from here all the different types of documents, and if that belongs to that module, you can run some reports from here, and that's the release management area. That's the new item that we're talking today, and that's where you can launch the release planning tool. So let me go to the release planning tool first, because when I go to the change document in Charm, I wanted for you to understand how the change document actually can see what we set up in the release management area. So that I think the linkage will work better and the workflow will make more sense, okay? So let me go to the release planning tool. So it's gonna launch me this UI here. Let me show you a couple of things here. As you can see, like right now on my left area here, I have these different things here. Let me explain what those things are. So this guy here is my landscape. This first part here is like my ECC, my BW, or you can have all the, it depends how you want to define your landscape. If you're going to be per system type, or you can define maybe depends how you want to plan your releases, if you're going to be per region. But in this case, I define this release, this planning release for my major, right, and my minor releases, and I put some go live dates and there's some phases. So let me explain that. Let's imagine you have like today that in paper. I say, William, I know my landscapes, I know which systems we have today that, and I want to plan those releases in Solution Manager, use the release planning tool. So let me explain how we got here, right? So you see all these items here. You have major release, different phases, you have different branches. So let's imagine tomorrow I say, hey, I'm ready to manage my release using Solution Manager. How do we do that? How this thing actually works, right? Let's come here to release planning, create there's an option called major and minor releases. So here when you're going to create your major and minor release, you have some idea today how many major and minor releases you have, right? So then you're going to come here, hey, what's your landscape? Which one do you want to create a release for? Okay, so hey, William, I'm very small today. I'm just doing ECC, and I want to set up my major and minor release first. Okay, no problem. So how many major releases do you actually do per year? So well, we follow SAP best practice, so we do 2, and we do every 6 months, 180 days, right? And what type of branch? So branch is your kind of solution documentation versioning, but the branch actually represents what type of landscape we're going to be developing or doing the change, the innovation, all that stuff. So your development branch will be your project landscape, right? You have your China development rollout. Then you're going to say, okay, your China rollout is ECC system, you know what I mean? And I have defined that behind the scenes in the configuration. I have defined my development. That's where my major release always will happen. And that's what I want it to happen, right? So then you select here what type of branch. Then you say, no, my major release could happen in the maintenance, which is not very usual, but we've seen customers doing things out there that could be not necessarily SAP best practice, but that's what works for them today. But usually the major release would happen in the development branch because it's so invasive, and you don't want to introduce something that major into your maintenance environment, your landscape, as you want to always have a supportability of your production system. Okay, so you define your development branch here. You say which day you want to go live. Say, oh, hey, I want to go on Sunday. And which day you want to go live first. Okay, I just implemented Charm. We're going to go live in Charm with release manager 3 weeks from now. So in our first major release, actually, it's going to happen 3 months from now. So then, okay, so you can come here 3 months from now and say, hey, Sunday, the 14th is going to be my first go live, okay? Just an example. Then you can say here, number of minor releases. So we do usually minor releases here at our company. We do 4 times a year. We do every 3 months, 90 days, right? And that's going to be, we don't use development branch for that. We use our maintenance branch, okay? If you notice that here, there's also a RAR implementation, because you can create different branches for different projects, different releases, different sets of systems. So it's every customer is different. We can set up that and design that in the way that makes sense for you. So I'm going to put that in my maintenance branch because I do my minor release in my maintenance branch, and we always go live on Sundays. So if I try to click here, because I already did something before here on the other screen that I was showing, it's going to not let me do it. Let me just do one thing here. Let me put this a little bit further because I'm not sure. Okay. It's going to ask me, let me see if it lets me create it. Okay. So I had already this guy here on on the screen that I showed before. I had this landscape, which is exactly the ECC landscape that I selected when I was creating it. Because I already initiated, so we just appended or updated the existing landscape that I had with the releases that I would like to plan. So I was mentioning, okay, so right now I have one major release that's in build phase, which is part of my development. So, and I have another major release planned on the February 19, 2017. Then I have a minor release planned on the 21st of May of 2017. So as you add new major release or minor release, when you create that, it's going to be listed here based on what you have defined, right? So whatever it just defined, it just appended with new items here because we had some items before. Is let's say if you don't want anything here, you can come here and delete. Or let's imagine you define the go live, but you don't like the go live date. You can always come here and adjust the go live date, and that's going to automatically ask you if you want to change the successor release or no. Okay, so you have clear visibility on the calendar here on this graphic here. What's coming, what's in parallel, what's not parallel. Once your major release, you have 2017 here. You have your major release in dark blue, and you have this light gray is your minor release. You know when it's coming, when is the go live expected to happen, and so that gives you an idea of what you have planned for and when the go live is planned for. Okay. So this is some of the things that you can do with the tool. The tool allows you to plan your releases from here on. When you plan your releases, your minor and major release, and define the dates, okay? So you can create a cycle. As you can see here, for this first major release here, I create a cycle. Cycle is the container where it's gonna hold all your chains for eventually that those chains will be, it goes through scope, build, test, and deploy. So if I come to the cycle here, I created the cycle, which is right now in build. But let me show you something. When I go to this cycle, it's going to take me to this container. That's the placeholder for all the chains that belong to the release. So this is my release cycle, right? The one that I just created from the that I had to create previously from the release planning tool. As you can see, there's all the different phases, right? That you use to control your project. So right now it's in build phase. Everybody's developing. As far as that release goes, everybody's going to develop, be able to create transports, associate different change documents to it. Then eventually, so hey, now it's the task phase. So you're going to come here and say, I don't want anybody introducing new chains unless it's a defect correction. It's a major issue that we have with the release. Then we allow them through different change document types. But right now I'm in the build phase. Say, hey, I want to move that to test phase, right? Because right now we're done. We're done with build, and I want this guy. So right now this cycle, this container, is going to hold everyone for them to perform testing. So that's a way for you, centralized way for you to control users, developers, not to introduce any new chains. So synchronously have control of that. Eventually, when you can synchronize multiple releases because you can bring everybody to tests from one central place, right? You can move all the different cycles to tests. Everybody tests synchronously. Then when you're ready to deploy, you're going to move the phase to deploy. Then someone's going to come in, your IT basis guy will come and say, hey, everybody that has been successfully tested, and now we're ready to move to deploy. Then you would move this phase to deploy. You would execute the bundling and the deployment of those chains into a production system, and those chains will be deployed. Then you release go live, and everything's hopefully, we always hope for it to be successful and good, no problems. And that's how the release cycle looks like. The difference from this and the other ones is because the release cycle has a tight integration with the release planning tool, so that helps you to organize the releases from that UI. So if you do that from a normal change, which is very similar, if you do a regular phase cycle, it's similar to this, but it doesn't have that tight integration with the release planning tool. So, and also this was designed more for the release process, so that some of the fields and the things that were created behind the scenes was more tailored for the release process. Okay, so now that you guys saw the release cycle, different phases here that you can do to control your project, let me go back to the Fiori launch screen here. And let me go back to this guy here, because I want to create I'm going to create a normal change, right? You have a new requirement, and then you want to create a new change, and how that normal change from Charm actually relates to what we just saw on the release planning tool, right? So now if I come here, hey, I need to create a normal change. You could have done actually that from the business requirement to IT requirement, then turning to a normal change. But today, because we're short, like I said, if you want to see more in details, I will be happy to have a company-specific call with you guys one-to-one, so explaining very more detailed steps. But today, we're going to skip the business requirement, IT requirement, and go directly to create a normal change or a request for change. So if I click Create a Normal Change, I select here my transaction type, and it's going to bring me the form, right? And like any document, any Charm document in Solution Manager, you have different phases. Like I showed you the cycle for the release cycle. That's where you control the container. This is the individual document. That's going to be part of your container. So they have also different phases, right? You have created, in development, to be tested, successfully tested, and all these different phases, which controls the life cycle of your document. So I'm just putting here something like the demo, WP, OTC, order to cash. So just 1 second. OTC. Let me imagine I'm going to be the developer. Okay, I'm the tester. All these different roles you can use here, and the different different people that can be involved in the workflow process. Of course, there will be different people here, so they'll be notified as you move through the workflow. The developer will be notified when it's ready for development. The tester will be notified when it's ready for test. The IT operator will be ready when it's ready to move to production. And then change manager will be notified when it's ready for approval. So like here on this change cycle phase, that when you click here and click on search, that's going to list all the different cycles that you have for your release planning, right? So that would show everything that you have here. Okay. So then you can see the phase cycle. 1 second here. Okay. So because it's not showing here. But here, you would see I'm not sure, something's not right here, it's not showing here. I'm not sure if my screen is limiting the number entries, but it should show in development, rank development. Okay, so let me do one thing, because I want to show you something it's not really showing. Let me do very quickly one thing, so because I want you to see the cycle. Let me just do an urgent change. I'm not sure why it's not showing. But let me create an urgent change very quick to see if you can see the cycle that I'm talking about. When you click on the change cycle here and click here, okay. So I don't know why something was going on with my normal change, but you're creating an urgent change. You could have been a normal change. When you select the project and say, this change that I'm creating, which release should be part of? Then when you click here and search, the IT operator, if it came from the IT architect, if it came from a business requirement to an IT department, then it turned into a change document, he would be able to identify which release that belongs to. And you can see here very clearly, see, Core LM Solution DEM ECC, major release. That's when the plan go live. So it's very, very easy for you to identify which release this change should belong to. If I associated this change to here, right? And then click a demo. Okay, let's see here. OTC, WP. Okay, then I put like the other rows that I was talking about. Okay, just put that here. And it's not mandatory, but I want to just put that. So this is my urgent change. I'm like requesting a new change that belongs to a certain release. It's like, okay, demo. OTC, right? So I can save this. This is an urgent change. I'm saving this document as a new request or new developer, and I say setting development. I'm just gonna go to this step so you guys understanding a little bit more where this thing can go. So when you click on setting development, I'm requesting new change. I already associated to that release. Now it's gonna pop up how many transfer you want to create. I create a workbench or customizing. And that's where the development starts. But from here, from the change document, I link to that change, to that release change cycle. And then, so that's where the integration, the cycle, the tight integration with the change request management process, and the release management happens. So for now, I can create the transports. My developer will work on it. It will make will do all the development. Then eventually put to test, successfully tested. Because this case here is an urgent change. It's not really necessary. That means we could go out of the release cycle to deploy into production. But if it was a normal change, then you would hold into testing, and when everybody tested, then eventually you would deploy into production. So I hope that gives an idea where the change document and charm with the whole workflow with the different approvals could actually be associated to the release management tool with all the different features and benefits of the release planning tool into this whole process. So this is the release planning tool again, and this is the release cycle. So if I cancel here very quickly, I just want to show you one more thing before we go back to the slides. If I cancel, so I just do this to update my cycle. If I scroll down here and put related transactions, this shows me everything that I created towards that release is going to be listed here. So that's very cool. So you can see that everybody that has created a change that it's part of that release will be here. So you can see now that I have this guy here that I just created, okay? Demo OTC WP, that's urgent change, that's in development. Just going to show you that this integration, how things are now linked together. And then eventually everybody would be here. Whoever's in successfully tested, we're then move the phase of the release planning to deploy, and then deploy into production. Okay, so this is the demo that I would like to show you. If you want to see the complete demo from the business requirement to the IT requirements, getting to charm, requests for change, all the different processes and approvals, and then actually show you or tell me about your pain points, what you're looking for, we can definitely talk more in a specific demo to cover that part. So let me go back to my slides here. When you implement release management, there's a few things that you get out of the box as a value proposition. The release management gives a tight integration with service desk and change request management. So there's a lot of benefits resolving problems triggered by when sometimes you have an issue, you trigger that by different tools and different elements. So now everything is in one tool, one process, so you can, every time you have an issue, you trigger that by a change request, and you have traceability and visibility. So now you enable the change request management according to the best practice ITIL. That's really good to know that you're following certain process and a standard procedure. Provide consistent of all the project and change. That's one thing that you have. You prevent duplicate, you prevent inconsistency, you reduce risk into environments, you reduce development efforts because now you have visibility and control of the different projects and change. The overall, you improve the RT service, increase reliability of your IT solution, ensure the optimal use of IT. And then the testing piece is really cool when you use release management because you actually, not just release management, but charm overall, it helps you to have a proper testing as you have more control, as Solution Manager can control things centrally. What's next? Change release management. I just showed you today changed a little bit of the change request management along with release management. But there's way more than that. So release management and charm can be integrated with ITPPM. We can definitely do much more than that. The ITSM has a full-blown service desk with different processes and elements that you can use to manage your whole IT department. That's fully integrated with change request management and release management. And the requirements management piece is also a new piece in Solution Manager 7.2 that you can leverage as part of the process for making change into your environment. The upcoming SAP LM webinars. So we have some of them that are coming right now on Thursday on March 2nd. It's going to be custom code management if you guys would like to know more about it. We have this webinar coming on March 2nd. Then we have the tests. So if you're interested in knowing more about testing in Solution Manager, all the different capabilities in 7.2, it's March 16. And automated testing suite, also some testing we're using CBTA, March 30th, and in change impact analysis and test scope optimization. That the change impact analysis, it can also be related to charm because you can use the change back on that, that's a tool that you can call from Charm to analyze how much impact those changes are making towards your test environment before you move to production. So all these different webinars you can also check on our website. So then you know when exactly, so you can sign up for those webinars, and I'm sure you get a lot of good information from them. So as far as the things that we CoreLM could provide you as part of any service that we deliver and do. So the company specific demonstration, like I mentioned several times, feel free to contact us for scheduling a specific demo of the content that I have showed you today. We can also do 1 hour solution assessment to understand your challenge today, review your project plans, give you some guidance, and maybe show you and really prove the value and benefits of implementing those tools from Solution Manager and like ALM tools in general. And then if you feel like, hey, I don't have much, my budget's limited, I would like to, I'm really interested in the tool. We don't have anything Charm, or we do have Charm, but we don't have these pieces in Charm. We want to have a look and feel how this tool works. We have service called Jumpstart Package. So those are like, we can deploy as quick as possible, as 1 month, have your environment with Charm running, with release management and requirements management. So that way you evaluate and see if this is the right tool for you. So we have Jumpstart Package. If you want to know more about it, we can talk more about it. So, and then I think there's one more poll question that I'm sure if Ivan's going to put on the screen for us before we go to the QA. Okay, so I think people are answering. Then we can go to, thanks everyone for responding, the poll question. So now I think, Ivan, you can take control and we can go over the questions that people may, our guests may have.
All right, thank you, William. Yep, we're now going to answer the questions that were submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Our first question is from Siddharth. We have Charm running on Solution Manager 7.1. What would take us to get requirements management and release management implemented on top of our existing Charm process?
Yeah, so this is a good question because we have a lot of customers that are running actually on 7.1 and they saw the requirements management piece and the release management piece, but because those are 2 new pieces and they are delivered by Solution Manager 7.2, first of all, we could help you with the upgrade. If you're not doing the upgrade yet from 7.1 to 7.2, we can definitely help you with that. That's the first step you need to take. Then we could leverage everything they have in Charm today. You don't need to re-implement by the content activation during the upgrade, after upgrade. Then we can just enable and implement these additional elements, the requirements management, the release management, on top of your existing process. So feel free to talk to us and contact us if you want to know more in details how we can do that, guide you through those steps.
All right, so I hope that answers your question. We have another question from Jackie. We are currently upgrading our Solution Manager from 7.1 to 7.2. And we don't have anything set up on change control management area. How long would it take for you guys to get us started with Charm and release management for POC running in our environment?
Yeah, it depends. Like if you want to do something more customized, like if you want to do a custom implementation of a Charm, it could take up like at least 8 weeks to get Charm with release management, requirements management implemented in your corporation. But if you say, hey, William, just want to do a POC and kind of feel how this tool looks like, and if it does fit into our process, if it is the right tool for us, you could do the jump starts like I mentioned before. That would be a good initial way for you to get charm with release management running at your company.
Okay, sounds good. Let me know if you have a follow-up question, Jackie. I have another question from Alan. Today we use phase cycles to manage our projects and releases. What are the benefits of using a release cycle instead?
Yeah, so one thing that a lot of customers have this question, oh, why, but I already manage my project using the phase cycle. What is the benefits using a release cycle? Well, the release planning tool on top of the release cycle definitely can be a benefit of you having more visibility. The UI can help you to administrate the different cycles. And also there's some mechanism behind the tool itself, the release planning tool, that when you go live with one release, a solution manager automatically helps you to create the subsequent release and take whoever didn't go to the previous release to the next release. There's certain features that specific designed and tailored for release planning and for release management, which the regular phase cycle would not have it, or would have it, but it's not really necessary tailored for release planning. I think if you're talking about releases, that's the difference. So leverage the whole capability of Solution Manager along with the release planning tool. You can definitely have a much better control of your releases.
All right, hope that answers your question. I don't have any further questions from the attendees. If you have a question, you can ask it now. We have about another minute or so, so you can fill in another question. Else we're going to close it. Anyone, any question? All right. If you have any question, oh sorry, I do have one from Rajesh. How do you package multiple change documents together and deploy and prod? I assume that's production together.
So if you like I said, right, when you create a change document, you're gonna get those change documents. You're gonna assign to your release. So you can have if it's a part of a major release, if it's part of a minor release. When you create your change document and select that specific release, and eventually you're gonna go. Any change document has to go through development, tests, and then when you're successfully tested, that means you're gonna have to go live eventually. So when you're ready to go live, you're gonna move your release cycle, saying, hey, we're ready to go live. So it's a deploy phase. Then the basis, the IT operator will come in and now move and execute that release cycle. Say, hey, schedule import into production. The release cycle will bundle every change that has that specific status that we want to go to production, that's successfully tested or approved to production, and then bundle, synchronize everything, and then deploy into production. So it's similar to the normal change, but the synchronization across different projects in the release cycle is slightly different. Okay, so in the normal change, you do have the synchronization, the cross-check of different projects, different releases, but the release planning helps you to do that via the UI and also with the moving the release cycle across the phase. And when you want to execute the deploy, you just go through the task list, import it, and things will be synchronously deployed in the proper sequence into production.
All right, thanks for that. I see they have a follow-up question, Rajesh. We'll take it offline as because we are coming on top of the hour. All right, thank you, William, and thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. As what William mentioned earlier, this is we do have more webinars coming up. This is the last of the charm webinars discussing SAP Solution Manager 7.2. You can view our next webinar at corealm.com/webinars. That's corealm.com/webinars. We really appreciate your presence here today, and if any further questions, please contact us. You also receive a follow-up email shortly with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. On behalf of everyone here at CoreALM and our presenter, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Ivan.